The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. Today's episode is brought to you by our partners over at SARACEN. It's Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. Folks, take advantage of the opportunity right now. New users can follow our QR code right here. You see it on the screen in the bottom corner there, and sign up with the code INSIDEAR. INSIDEAR to unlock their no strings attached promo where you bet $25 on any wager at SARACEN, and you get awarded with 5 free $25 bets. Sounds hard to beat to me. You should do it. If I wasn't already a member, I'd be taking advantage of that myself. How's everybody feeling on this hump day here on Wednesday? We're just over a week away from prime time at the Palace. That's very exciting. I was going to say we're just a few days away from Razorback football, but I feel like that might miss its mark a little bit. Although Notre Dame's coming to town, it should be fun. And obviously there's a lot to be paying attention to, whether you're excited about the results or not. So, we're just over a week away from getting able to see these guys get up and down in Razorback uniform in Bud Walton Arena. Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't it just warm the soul a little bit? It's going to be a really fun event next Friday. We got some coverage stuff planned for it that we're excited about that we'll be able to talk a little bit more on later in the week here. But gosh, man, like, who do you guys have in the dunk contest? We're going to handicap the race here on this show next week and really dive into the weeds of who we think is going to win this thing. But that's cool. I'm excited for it. I'm happy that they're doing it. Some coaches don't like to. They're worried about their guys getting hurt or whatever. It's basketball. To me, like, you're more likely getting hurt if you're doing some 5-on-5 open run than you are a dunk contest. As long as you don't try to do anything too crazy. Like, I would just love to see, I don't know, one of your guards jump over Paolo and Elmer and try to dunk one. They might rule that out. Like, okay, we're not going to let you break out the props, but if you can just do a cool dunk, that's fine. But I'm looking forward to it, man. The event scheduled for an hour and a half starts at 8 p.m. in Fayetteville next Friday. They're going to introduce the men's and women's team. They've got the laser light show, the dunk contest, the scrimmage, which because it's only an hour and a half, I don't get the sense that they're going to do like the full traditional 4-quarter red and white game with all the other stuff going on. Maybe it'd just be like one running clock half or something. I don't know. But regardless, it's going to be our first opportunity to see these guys scrimmage in person, and it's going to be a blast. So I'm looking forward to seeing them get up and down. If I remember correctly, the way that Coach Cal did it at Kentucky, it came across as very exhibition-ish, like a lot of lobs, a lot of dunks. It was kind of for show, not a whole lot of defense. I just remember watching them do it. I think it was on the SEC Network or something when they were doing their Big Blue Madness thing. And I was watching it thinking, this reminds me of the NBA All-Star game with the way they're playing. But, hey, I can't wait. I don't care. I just want to see them out there on the floor. So, speaking of exhibitions, by the way, had a few folks who have reached out asking me about tickets and just the information for the Cincinnati scrimmage that's on the 24th of next month, October. I'm told that all the details on that should be released here in the next week or so. So we'll have a little bit more by way of, game time. Are they going to broadcast it or anything? Is going to be on SEC Network Plus or whatever, and then tickets for sure. So we'll pass that along when it comes through, but I'm told that's going to be out pretty soon here. And, we haven't talked about it a whole lot, but this is a good exhibition for Arkansas. It's not as sexy and opponent coming in here as, Purdue was a few years ago, or, Kansas was last year. They were preseason #1 coming in, but also your actual schedule is a lot better. So the fact that they've got a high major opponent, a Big 12 school coming in to scrimmage, I think that's cool. I think it's good. And it's an open exhibition. They're not doing the secret scrimmage thing, which I appreciate. And I also think they're going to challenge Arkansas in a number of ways that they need to be challenged. A lot of length in the front court for Cincinnati. Obviously, we'll do a full preview when we get a little bit closer to it. But, Baba Miller, Mustafa Thiam, they've got some tall, long, athletic, rangy front court players. Jalen Celestine is a veteran wing from Baylor that I was kind of hoping Arkansas would be in on. I also really like the idea of Arkansas's freshman guards seeing a trash talker and a pest and a type of player that Kerr Kriisa is. He's over there now, by the way. Test that mental toughness again for the young fellas. I think it'll be a good thing for them. But at any rate, we'll talk about that stuff a lot more once we get closer to it. Do have a fun show lined up for you today. What we're going to do is kind of rank all of Arkansas's visitors in order of the likelihood that the Razorbacks can land them. And we're going to do something similar with the other targets who haven't visited yet. We're also going to dive into some debate a little bit on a couple recent articles that have been put out pertaining to which school can land the nation's top high school class in 2026 and how the 5-star freshmen fit at their schools this season. Some interesting stuff there for sure. Folks, are you tired of juggling insurance companies just to find the right coverage? It's kind of a pain in the rear end. That's part of adulting that I don't necessarily like. But at OZK Insurance and Rogers, they make insurance simple for you. Again, as a 100% independent agency, they shop the entire marketplace to deliver the best combination of cost and coverage, saving you both time and money. Whether it's home, auto, boat, motorcycle, life, or commercial insurance, their friendly team has access to a wide range of flexible options that are designed just for you. They serve Northwest and Central Arkansas, including Bentonville, Centerton, Fayetteville, Little Rock, Hot Springs, Springdale, and beyond. So let OZK Insurance be the trusted advisor you never knew you needed. They have over 600 5-star Google reviews. Start with them today with a free online quote at ozkinsurance.com or give them a call at 479-715-4200. It's OZK Insurance, protection made simple. Okay, so for the moment, and this is very much subject to change here, in my opinion. So I had to give that disqualifier or that disclaimer here out at the top, but Arkansas does not have any 2026 visitors on tap for this weekend or next. So nothing for the Notre Dame weekend and now nothing for primetime at the Palace. Look, I would say this is strange since Notre Dame is in town for football, but we all know how that whole situation is going. I feel like this is going to change. Okay, I think it's just a circumstance right now. And maybe it's a deal where you get some 2027 kids and everything in there, but I just have a feeling that we're going to have some notable recruits coming in over the course of the next couple of weeks. So we'll be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime here, let's look big picture for just a few minutes today. Let's call this the Razorback visitor likelihood of landing meter, I think is what we're going to call it. So based on everything that we've gathered from these visits, just kind of putting together a pecking order together from most likely to least likely from all these visitors that Arkansas has had in terms of who they might actually get. And let's start at the top with the most likely. And honestly, I mean, I think it's hard to go with anyone other than Abdu Torre here. You know, multiple visits now that he's taken. He visited last year in October and is fresh off the official visit to Arkansas a couple weekends ago. You know, the staff has been out to see him multiple times. Chuck Martin's been out there. You know, John Calipari, we've talked about it, but, you know, he wraps up on-campus visits with both Arafon Gian and Jordan Smith Jr. on Sunday, and immediately, like within minutes, he's flying out to Connecticut to do an in-home with Abdu Torre. So, you know, your competition here essentially is Providence, unless, you know, UConn or whoever wants to really ramp it up. But listen, time frame wise with him, I think it's still a little bit hard to say, but I do believe he's going to be an early period commitment at the very least. Listen, if Arkansas continues to prioritize and if they go full court press to get a pledge here, I just believe that they will. I think they're in the driver's seat for Abdu, so he is at the very top of our likelihood meter here. Next up, and listen, this is definitely the other guy here that I feel really, really good about at the moment, and it's Brandon McCoy. And we talked about that quite a bit on Monday's show, where it's kind of crazy because you've got two other 5-stars in town, and I'm hearing the most buzz about a guy who visited a few weeks ago, and that's McCoy. And I know that his recruitment's a little bit quieter and more buttoned up, but Arkansas built a lot of momentum during his visit a couple weeks ago, and they've maintained it since. Even through a visit that he just took to Miami over the weekend. So, you know, be on the lookout for some others, you know, Michigan, USC, other teams that are in there and trying to make a push. But right now, things are really trending in a positive direction with Arkansas and Brandon McCoy. So he's up there pretty high on our likelihood meter as well. Now, we kind of moved down from the guys that I would say Arkansas is leading for, or, you know, that they're a lean for or whatever with Abdu and Brandon McCoy, to the guys where I feel like Arkansas has made up some ground, or they at least have a real shot at. You know, like, I don't know if I'd outright call them a leader, but they're certainly in the thick of it. And first up is Big Arafon Gian, right? You know, the visit over the weekend was huge for Arkansas. And I'm told that they have made up ground on Houston. Now, did they overtake them? I don't know. I don't know about that one, but you still have, 6 weeks or so to work towards that because he's going to be a commitment in mid-November. And you can always up the bag, right? And so one of the things that stood out to me over the course of the weekend was that Arkansas very clearly felt great about how both visits went, but the word I received is that they felt particularly strong about their chances and about the momentum they felt like they had with Arafat. And we know that the mutual interest is real there. Like, he is very, very much in play for Arkansas. So we continue to monitor these other visits. I think he goes to Virginia this weekend, Indiana in a couple weeks. He wraps with a return visit and official to Houston. That one, it sucks that that he's going there for his final visit. But you've got a lot of opportunities here to continue to get out and see him and prioritize him and make your moves along the way. I'll also include Jordan Smith Jr., I think, in this category as well, just to a little bit of a lesser degree. You know, I don't think it's accurate to call a guy a long shot when he's not committing until the spring. And unless something changes, that's the plan for Jordan Smith Jr. So, and you're one of the very few visits that he's taken, and you're the most recent. So, you know, when he leaves campus and somebody's saying, well, he's still a long shot for Arkansas, I disagree with that. Now, I understand the Duke aspect of this all, and we've talked about it a ton with, you know, his high school and all the connections there. And, you know, it's a little bit more local for him, or in the area, at least in the region. If he remains a holdout during the season, like we kind of anticipate he's going to, watch for Jordan Smith Jr. taking second visits, hopefully to Arkansas for a game. You know, how many times does he wind up at Duke? Does he run back over to Georgetown? What does that all look like? We'll have to monitor that throughout the course of the year. And also keep an eye on how the classes shape up with his contenders, because that is something that he has said is very, very important to him. So what if Duke winds up landing Darren Rippey, for example, who they have visiting in a couple of weeks, same position as him? What if Arkansas gets Brandon McCoy, who his timeline's a little bit unclear? I'm still hopeful that he's going to make his decision in the early period, but he could be a holdout as well. We'll see. But still a ways to go there with Jordan Smith Jr. The last two here that I consider more in that long shot category. I think, you know, Tay Kenny, there's no denying he's got a great vibe with John Calipari. And in a lot of circumstances, I would think Arkansas is in really good shape there to potentially steal him. The Adidas thing's a big deal, right? So, like, I'll still give Arkansas that 1% puncher's chance because of John Calipari. Like, you never rule him out completely, but that still feels unlikely here with 5 days to go until his commitment. So we're going to continue to check on it and see if anything changes there. But right now, I feel like that's kind of where that's at. And then Caleb Holt. Now, you know, Arkansas is still pursuing him. Okay, they haven't just stopped recruiting him, not by any means, but the visit buzz, and it felt like there was some heavy smoke there. It's completely died down and subsided. So, you know, a lot of other schools have been, you know, able to gain some more momentum there. Alabama being the main one. Providence is in there. Arizona, he's visiting here coming up. Unless there's a momentum shift soon, I just don't see this trending Arkansas's way. Like, they had an opportunity to get in there and seize the moment, and they did for a minute, but it doesn't feel like they've really sustained that. So I think that's kind of where we're at with this run of visitors that we've had over the course of the last month here. Now, as for the guys who haven't visited yet, but they're being pursued by Arkansas, if we were doing the likelihood meter here, I think Mika Murinen would have to be pretty high on this list, because he did visit last year, actually an official that he took about this time a year ago. And it's been a long relationship, a long courtship. We know that Arkansas cooled. A lot of folks cooled on him, though. But Arkansas is in his group of finalists, and it's one of those deals to where if the Razorbacks go all in prioritizing him again, they have as good of a shot as anybody, as Michigan or NC State or any of those other schools, at getting him. And you guys remember what I told you? I asked someone that I know is directly plugged in with Mika's recruitment over the weekend. I said, hey, you know, is Arkansas still on the table? Like, is Arkansas still being considered by Mika? And I was told, you bet your ass they are. So I'm going to roll with that. Okay. And we'll see where Arkansas stands from that standpoint after what was a heck of a turnout in terms of production at Eurobasket for Mika. We talked about it a lot, but man, he looked phenomenal. I think really reestablished his stock. Baba Aladaton, actually, he would be up there on that list as well, probably higher than Mika in terms of priority. because Arkansas is really pushing for him, visiting next month for the Cincinnati exhibition unless that date changes. Now, he's one that I look at and think, well, man, could they sneak him in maybe for the Notre Dame game? Could they sneak him in earlier for prime time at the Palace? I don't know. I don't even know if that's in the works. I just know the date that I was given a little while back. So we'll see. John Calipari loves him, and Arkansas has been pursuing him very, very hard here. They were the first out to see him in the recruiting period. He's one to keep a close eye on. Like they want him, and they're going after him. A notch below that, although they continue to rise, man. Eyeball emojis officially for the Ratliff Bros. Okay, we talked about it to lead the show yesterday. They were our heavy hitters by HD Roofing and Construction. John Calipari finally went out to see him, or to see both of them. And then on Tuesday, he officially extended those scholarship offers that we've been waiting on to both of those guys. So what now? Eyes on visits for those fellas. Could they be some guys who get on campus here pretty soon? And we'll see where that goes. But very notable when you've been out to see him as many times as Arkansas has this month since the recruiting period opened up, and then you get Cal out there, and then you extend the offers. The process continues to build here with the Ratliff twins. And then Cole Clower, by the way, he announced the top 5, and it didn't include Arkansas. And that visit that was scheduled for October 3rd through the 5th, he was going to be the one guy we knew would be at prime time at the Palace. It's off now. So no shooter for you, Arkansas. Maybe next year, maybe never, but it's not going to be Cole Clower, which is unfortunate because I think he's a really unique player, and I'd love for Arkansas to get a sniper like that. But it's not entirely surprising because if you recall, Arkansas was a late offer. They were kind of late to the party, and we just thought it was very notable that they got a visit at all. But I don't think we ever really viewed Arkansas as a top tier contender for Cole. It was all going to be contingent on, well, what happens on that visit? No, it turns out it's not happening at all. Hey, today's episode of the Pot at the Palace is also brought to you by our friends over at Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas, your local holiday lighting experts. Folks, we are giving away a free Halloween lighting setup to somebody in Northwest Arkansas or the River Valley on Friday on Inside Arkansas Live. If you want to enter in that discussion, all you got to do is go to insidearkansas.com/giveaways. That's insidearkansas.com/giveaways. Fill out the form to be eligible for the random drawing that we're going to do. Then if you win, if you get this, first of all, they're going to come out there and hook you up for free with some lights. Second of all, what we're going to do, we're going to get some pictures, a little video of your house and then my house that they did last week. We're going to run a poll on the old Twitter machine. And if you beat me, if they did a better job on your house than they did mine, I'm going to send you some Pot at the Palace merch. It's the least I could do. But really cool. Like, we're excited about our yard. And it's funny because I'm sure it's going to be a different story on Christmas. But right now, we're the only house on the block that's lit up, man. And it's kind of electric. I'm not going to lie. It looks pretty cool. And we're pumped about it. And if we ever get over this constant raining, storming, hailing, tornadoing weather, I'm going to do one of these episodes out there. Especially now that the weather's cooling off a little bit. It's looking a little spooky outside. But I'm trying to go out there and get struck by lightning, man. It's ridiculous. Anyway. Okay. So where are we at here? We've laid it all out there, with Arkansas's targets, and, they're going to, first of all, they're going to end up with anywhere from 3 to 5 of the names that we've discussed today. Book it, stamp it, guarantee it. That's going to happen. The question is, who will it wind up being? So I kind of go back to our Hot Take Tuesday from a few weeks ago when we threw out there that, Arkansas would land the number 1 high school class in the country for 2026. And it still doesn't feel that far-fetched. Like, it's very, very much in play. It's never an easy thing to do, but Arkansas is certainly in those discussions. If Arkansas finished with, I was over on 24/7 Sports. They've got that class calculator where you can just randomly add people to the recruiting class. It calculates up that team score and it lets you know kind of where you would fall in line with the rankings. So, if Arkansas finished with, say, JJ Andrews and the 2 guys we had at the top of our likelihood meter with Abdu Torre and Brandon McCoy, just a 3-man class, that would be a team score of 65.24, which would have been good enough for top 10 last season, just with 3 guys. So they would need another add to get to where we would like them to be naturally. I think we all knew that. We understand that. So let's say you have those 3 guys and you add Big Arafon to the mix. Well, that gets you to a 69.43. That would have been good for third in the country last year, but it would have been nipping right on the heels of where Duke finished at the top. Like that's very much the type of score that could be a number one overall. So it could potentially get it done. Let's say Arkansas finished with JJ, Abdu, McCoy, and then they swooped in late and got the Ratliff Bros. That's actually slightly higher at 69.84. So there are several viable paths here, just, mentioning the most gettable based on our own projections of the bunch. So it's in play for Arkansas to win the offseason, win the recruiting cycle. But honestly, we could very realistically also be adding 5-stars like Baba Oladatun or Mika into these conversations, and Arkansas is even more of a threat for that top spot. So John Calipari really has a chance to flex here. And something else that makes this interesting is that, or to consider at least, this isn't all about how much money John Calipari in Arkansas is willing to throw around for these high school players, so much as how much he is willing to relative to the competition that you're facing, because a lot of these other schools place such a higher value on the portal than Arkansas does. So they're kind of reserving those funds for portal season. And if anybody was going to go crazy with the high school kids, it's going to be John Calipari. We know this. You got to consider that as well. Now, CBS Sports had their panel of college hoops experts, 5 or 6 dudes who they predicted who would have the number one signing class for the 2026 cycle. So, for example, Gary Parrish, he went with Duke. Okay. I mean, that's fair. They've done it the last couple of years. Makes sense. Matt Norlander went Kansas, which normally you would say, yeah, okay, sure. But I think he's kind of out of his mind with that pick, given the state of affairs over there at Kansas, the uncertainty with Bill Self. They're believed to be the leader for Tay Kenny. Outside of that, I don't know if they're really heavily in on a lot of these top flight kids. So I don't know. That was an interesting pick. Kyle Boone went with Kentucky, which they had the most money, so it could certainly happen. I think the only pathway for Kentucky to get the number one class runs through, they've got to close on Tyron Stokes. If they don't, it's just not going to happen. David Cobb, though, over there, he rolled with Coach Cal and the Hawks. So I'm glad someone sees the vision, right? And I'm going to pull up the graphic actually and read to you what he had to say about Cal, because it's cool, but you almost feel like it's a little bit of a backhanded compliment here. I've got it on the screen, but I'll read it for those listening at home. He says, no matter how much college basketball changes, John Calipari just can't quit the pursuit of high caliber freshmen. Well, throw him in jail and lock him behind bars because he recruits the highest NBA talent in the country. Okay. Anyway, he says recruiting McDonald's All-Americans is an inexorable part of his coaching ethos, and that isn't changing in this cycle. Scroll through the list of top prospects from the class of 2026 over at 24/7 Sports, and you'll notice a common theme. Many of them have Arkansas listed among their top 5 choices. This is accurate. He says, in fact, the Razorbacks already have a commitment from 5-star wing JJ Andrews, which puts them ahead of the curve in the 2026 recruiting race. If anyone is savvy enough to navigate the financial workarounds and interdepartmental dynamics required to fund a roster in this era, it's Calipari. His first Arkansas recruiting class ranked number 4, and his Kentucky program finished with numerous top-ranked classes. Old habits die hard, and you can bank on Cal having a class that ranks at or near the top in the final rankings. So there you have it. I tend to agree, man. It's like we said, it's not out of the realm of possibility that these guys can get it done. And part of the decision-making process also, as we transition to the final segment here of the show, with these high school players, is how the current freshmen, like the guys that are a class above them, fare at these schools. And it was another, I thought, really, really good article at CBS Sports breaking down the fit of each 5-star freshman at their schools of choice preseason. So I saw that immediately. I was like, okay, cool. I'm anxious to see if their evaluations match mine. Plus, if it lines up with the feedback that we've received on these guys being Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas in this case, for the most part, is pretty close, I got to say. So that makes me feel pretty good about things. But a lot of optimism and belief in Darius Acuff just being a dude for the Razorbacks. And why wouldn't you feel that way, honestly? But CBS Sports projects him as a starting guard, But the burning question that they have for him is how he will adjust to being off ball more. And listen, that's a fair question to ask. Like I would say it's not determined yet how much he's actually going to be off the ball, though. Like you might assume that's the case, but is it? Yeah, I think part of it's going to depend on how he continues to shoot it in practice, how he comes along as a floor general, and more than anything, just what works best continuity wise, sharing the backcourt with DJ, him on the ball or you on the ball. And it's going to take a little bit of time, I think, to figure that out. But one thing we do know for sure is that when DJ is off the floor, Darius Acuff's going to be running the show. It's not going to be anybody else. And if he is off the ball, well, what does it really mean? Because, you know, if he's off the ball and Arkansas is running floppy, which they love to do, Darius Acuff will literally, you know, kind of jog down underneath the rim, and then he just gets to pick his side. Am I coming off a single screen, a pin down, or am I coming off a double stagger screen on the other side? And then the ball is going to get swung to me, and after one pass, guess what? I'm on the ball. So I'm not sweating that. I'm really not. The only thing I'll say is you just can't have him in the purgatory that Nelly Davis was in, trapped in the corner for the first half of the season. But the difference was Nelly was playing the three, and he wasn't getting touches because DJ and Boogie dominated the rock. Well, that's just DJ and Acuff now. So, like, worry about Carter with that or something, or Leak, but not Darius Acuff. He's not the one to have this conversation about, in my opinion. But they weren't critical at all, but that was kind of they have a burning question for every one of those guys. Like, makes sense. Now, they were super, super complimentary of Acuff. They pointed out his spot up shooting, which we noted yesterday. They pointed out his pick and roll efficiency, which we noted yesterday. The pressure he puts on the rim. They're very bullish on him being kind of that next vintage Calipari guard, and so are we. So that was good to see. Now they are less bullish on our man Malik Thomas, quite a bit less, actually. But not because they don't think he's a good player, just it's a lot of math involved here. Now, for starters, they do envision him in the same role that I do, which is kind of as a second unit sniper. Like, he comes in to provide scoring pop off the bench, and he's going to be able to do it at a high level. Their concern at CBS Sports is whether or not he can defend wings, because that impacts how versatile he is positionally. Is he just a 2, or is he a 2-3? Well, you can play the positions that you can guard. So I understand that. But I think the flaw in their theory here is that they point out that he's 6'3" with just a 6'6" wingspan. Well, that's because they weren't at Baum-Walker Stadium studying him at baseball games, and they weren't at the open practice that we were. Malik Thomas is listed at 6'5" now, and that is accurate. I am 6'4", and Malik Thomas is taller than me. That matters here. And if you guys remember some of the discussions that we had, this is one of the things that I brought up of, like, okay, he is, first of all, he's put on some weight, a little bit of muscle. He needs to continue to work on that. Got some broad shoulders. He's got some big calves, some things that I like to see there. But that height that he has, even if it's just a couple inches taller than advertised, that changes things, because I immediately thought, okay, he can play more on the wing than I thought he could. He's not limited. He's not boxed in to just being a guard there. I think that's really important. They do question if he's going to be in the closing lineup, because, and that's fair too. Like, the assumption is Acuff, DJ, and Carter will be. But I could also see a very realistic world where Arkansas is going with 3 guards and then Carter Knox at the 4 to close out wins this year. If you can trust Nick Pringle or whoever to rebound at the 5, because you might need to get Trevin Brazil's poor free throw shooting out of there. And so if that's the case, that would open a path for Leak to be in the closing lineup as well. Not a given, but there's a pathway. They also point out Billy Richmond factoring in here with the math, right, for the guards and the wings, minutes-wise. Like, how are you going to find minutes for all these guys? Which, you know, this is part of why they didn't go get a sure rotation piece at the 4 behind Trevin, because it does give you flexibility to play small with Carter or Billy or whoever, unless Paolo emerges quickly here. But it gives you a little bit more flexibility to stretch it out for these guys, because you do have a you know, it's like a treasure trove of guard and wing talent there. You got to 5 minutes for all these dudes. So I think they're fair with their questioning. It's all valid. You dig a little bit deeper, you see the path. For what it's worth, I think we projected Leak at like 23 minutes per game, not 33. So I really don't think it's going to be an issue there. And also, if he's making threes, I just have to assume that he's going to be on the floor. But I found that interesting. And this is an important piece to the puzzle because a guy like Jordan Smith Jr., if he's not committing until the spring, he is going to be watching how Darius Acuff thrives or doesn't at Arkansas. He's going to be watching how, whoever, Jasper Johnson at Kentucky or whatever guard, the other Boozer twin at Duke, whoever's recruiting him over there. Tay Kenny's going to be watching Mikel Brown at Louisville or Darren Peterson at Kansas. They do that. So that matters. And you want to put those guys in position to exceed. Nobody's done that better than John Calipari with freshman guards. So not really sweating it, but it is something to keep an eye on, especially as these guys wait longer and longer to announce their commitments here moving forward. So, all right, that's all I got for you today. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, subscribe to the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel if you haven't already. Turn your notifications on. That way you're notified anytime we go live or upload some new content. That's especially important with everything that's going on with this football program right now and with the recruiting season for basketball and with the season getting ready to start. You want to make sure that you're tapped in there, and find us wherever you find your audio podcast, whether it's Amazon, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen, you name it, we can be found there. We can be found right back here tomorrow morning. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pot, the Palace. You guys have a good day. We'll catch you in the morning.